Generative AI has inspired a flood of new tools to the market, but Octave is a category that I didn't even know existed. Octave helps you create and house your ICP and personas so you can use this context in other go-to-market Gen AI solutions. In the demo, Zach actually goes through LeanScale as a case study. He sets up our ICP, personas, builds playbooks based on very unique ICP personas, and even shows how we can use this as an endpoint in Clay for highly personalized outreach. If you're looking to do highly personalized messaging, outreach, or you're a customer of Clay, you're gonna wanna check out Octave. Today we have Zach Vitibor, the co-founder and CEO from Octave, to share with us how they are helping companies operationalize their ICP and efficiently scale hyper-tailored messaging across their market. Zach is a longtime veteran of B2B go-to-market, having started his career many years ago as an SDR and being part of a successful sales team at small startups, as well as larger companies like LinkedIn, DocuSign, Dropbox, and VMware. He started Octave in 2022 at the dawn of the current Gen AI wave, and is excited by how his technology can enable companies to rewrite the rules of GTM. When he's got free time away from the business, you're likely to find him experimenting in the kitchen, on his mountain bike with friends, or exploring a new city. Zach, I am so pumped to have you here today. This is going to be a really exciting preview for what new features generative AI can take advantage of. And your company has really opened up a whole new category in my head of Gen AI capabilities. So just really excited to get in. But before we go into the demo, I always love to hear it. I know our audience loves to hear it. What inspired you to start Octave, and how did you get this company off the ground?
Man, well, first of all, thank you for having me. Really excited. We've been able to get to know each other a little bit and have a nice chat today. So I'm pumped for this. I see. Let's go back. Not all the way to the dawn of time as a SDR, but that's where I began my career. So that is, I'd say, what's still in my veins today is carried a bag for a long time. Been on a lot of sales teams in a lot of different scenarios, and I'd say, getting to the more interesting kind of founding story. It's like my co-founder, CTO, I met him at a company called Smite. Really interesting piece of technology. So what we did was we helped trust and safety teams with all kinds of application abuse issues. And these could be widely varied. So we had this really powerful piece of technology that could help you with, let's say, credit card fraud or account takeovers, or you have like hate speech or child pornography or really bad things on your platform. And so we had this really powerful piece of technology. Our challenge, like many startups face, was who do we sell this to? Are we selling this to product? Is this a product problem? Is this an engineering problem? Is this a security problem? Is this like a compliance issue the general counsel cares about? And so like, this is something necessarily, I bring it up as like, partly unique to our story of obviously where I met my co-founder of Octave, but I think something a lot of startups go through is, who's our customer? What are the use cases? You really have to narrow in on those things to find like successful, repeatable motions. And so part of our story is Julian and I experienced this on lots of other teams. We had just this like particularly acute problem of we literally had 1,000,001 different use cases, and it created a challenging go-to-market environment. But we had a successful run with that company, ended up getting acquired by Twitter. We parted ways for a little while, but we always had this dream of, there were all these permutations that in the moment we could understand how to make somebody successful, why they would care, but we couldn't capture that in any tool, right? Salesforce didn't have this knowledge, outreach didn't have this, the tools couldn't help us sell because it didn't have the context of like what we did, who we helped, etc. So now fast forward again, 2022, we saw GPT-3 for the first time. And I think like every go-to-market professional, you have that moment of, holy crap, I know cold start blank page pain. All of a sudden, voila, magic trick gets filled. And I think where we started to take a slightly different approach was, wait, kind of time out. We've now got the page filled, but what did I fill it with? Like, did I fill it with stuff that was anchored to like our strategy and our perspective and what we know about our personas and what they care about and what their pain points are. And so what we got really excited about was like, hey, you know, my whole career has taught me like how do you get, you know, if good copy is the end result, you know, kind of how do you get there? Well, you get there by starting at kind of the beginning of the process, which is who is our ICP? Like, what do we do for them? Why do we care? Why do they care? Right? What are the benefits? Who are our reference customers? What are all these atomic units? And so Octave was born of like, we think that kind of your core ICP, your messaging and positioning, like that stuff is worthy of a purpose-built home. Like that is a strategic asset, just like your code bases, just like your product design and your visual assets and your UX, like understanding your kind of go-to-market anatomy, that is just as critical. And so Octave is about a platform. How do we capture those kind of building blocks? Again, your personas and use case and value props and all these pieces, and let you use those in repeatable, consistent ways and kind of apply that context that now we can capture in a lot of different workflows. And I think we'll build some stuff live together today and check this out, but I'll stifle myself there. And that's kind of where the dream was born.
No, I love it. I love it. And the best ones come out of necessity and really serving your own needs. I definitely felt the pain of lacking RevOps capabilities before starting LeanScale and putting together what we have here today. And I think people have a lot of misconceptions about ICP, and often the level of depth that they expect is really just the tip of the iceberg. Like they'll normally say something like, "Oh, we sell to financial institutions. That's our ICP." Like, okay, well, which ones, which country, which personas within the financial institution? Right. Who are you selling to? And then often they think of it as something that's static. You put it on the shelf and you let it sit, when you should be iterating on your ICP and continually refining it all the time, especially when you launch in new markets, especially when you launch new products or new features, and when you get feedback from your customers. You're going to learn that your ICP may not be who you thought it was.
100%. Could not agree. We talk often about like, if you think of like go to market as just like some formula and like some equation that will eventually like balance and like, you know, ta-da, we've solved this riddle and here we go, 50% month over month. Like we all know that it doesn't work like that. It's this constant kind of like iterative and like sedimentary process too. Like you're taking these learnings at every moment of like, did it work here? Did it not? Why? What's resonating? What isn't? And like you're building that into kind of your, you know, your lexicon and your anatomy. And like it's always in flux a little bit. And you're totally right. You have to take it beyond the firmographic filters will only get you so far. You know, financial services, this level of revenue and above, and this number of employees and above, like great. Like who cares in there? And like, and we know like the landscape has gotten so much harder. You can't get away with, I sell to financial services. No. Do you sell to fintechs? You know, do you sell to wealth managers? Do you sell to banks? Do you sell to credit unions? You know, you have to be so much more specific and like really tighten the aperture to like get through now. And like, that's what we want to help teams build muscle and process around. That's right.
Well, I know you have something prepared very special for us today, which is really unique on the LeanScale podcast, to do a demo as if you're LeanScale and basically just letting us hop in and build it around our profile. I think it's really, really cool. So I'm excited to get started and show off the platform and what it can do.
Yeah, man, let's do it. All right. Welcome to Octave, man. So what we're going to do here, we're kind of in our dev environment. This is going to be fun. We're kind of basically mimicking, this is what it would look like if you signed up. So I'm going to be the driver, but we'll make this interactive. You'll play along. But what we're going to kind of do now is like, basically we're going to bootstrap Octave. Like we want to think about this as like Octave is meant to be like batteries included, right? Like we want to be smart, understand your business. So we're going to walk through that process. So the library is where we start that. You'll see it starts with simply, in this case, we're just going to start with reading your website. We can obviously feed it a lot more sources and we will begin. And so what's happening now is basically we're reading your website, passing it into our model, and it's going to try and come up with like kind of on a single page, can we define LeanScale as a product offering. And you see it's kind of breaking it down in this like opinionated way around capabilities and challenges addressed and customer benefits, and meant to be like, can we distill this in a really kind of crisp manner? And so I'll let you keep us honest. Tell me if this is looking generally in line. We can take it as is. Obviously, nothing is set in stone. Can always edit, refine later. But how are we looking so far?
Oh, that's spot on. That's spot on. And I love the batteries included metaphor because that's what it feels like. So
awesome. Okay, continue. So see, now it's basically the model starts like taking in and re-ingesting like, okay, now I know what this product, this offer is. Like, who might we be selling this to? So like, what are our key personas? So I'll let you drive me. Like, who are you guys targeting?
Yeah, Chief Revenue Officer for sure. VP of Sales Ops, any RevOps leader. And can we throw in like CEO/founder?
Yeah, game on. Feel good for now?
Yep, that's pretty good.
Okay, cool. And we can always add more later. This is kind of just the initial bootstrapping. Cool. So now it's trying to figure out what are the use cases? Like what might we be talking to these individuals about in a more kind of specific manner?
Yeah, so definitely go-to-market, technology, architecture and design,
Cool.
RevOps framework alignment, integrated CRM systems, automated revenue workflow.
Cool.
And then let's go data-driven decision. And then I think that's probably all these are really compatible, but let's go with those ones as the main ones.
Let's take those for now. All right. Now, last little bit of homework. So tell me, just like, give me a bullet point or two, like how would you say, LeanScale is different or unique?
Yeah. So first is full stack RevOps capabilities. So we can offer everything from sales ops, CS ops, marketing ops, partnerships. We do the technology plus the strategy plus the process. And then we have an embedded model. So our teams are embedded with your team rather than being project specific.
Great. Delivered in a embedded model, and great typing by me there. All right. And then like, how would you describe again? Like just a bullet point. We're just trying to guide the model in the right direction. Like status quo, like people, I guess, are obviously they're trying to cobble systems together themselves, or like, how would you describe this?
Yeah, I'd say there's two. One is do nothing. So there are a lot of teams who just don't even invest in it. And then the other would be the main one I would say we compete with is people hiring in-house. Yeah, cool. Pray. Lots of prayers. Hope it works well.
Yeah. We'll have some fun. All right. So this is like we've charged up our batteries now, so to speak, right? So now like Octave, again, like at its core, we're trying to be like a ICP and persona aware model. So it's going to take all these inputs, and the library, kind of what it's going to stamp out here for us is a bunch of these core building blocks to get started, right? So now it's trying to help us build out on that differentiated value and status quo. And the cool part here is like now this definition, again, instead of living in yet another static deck or doc or Notion somewhere, we have a purpose-built home for this, and this is attached to our model. So like you can always come in here and adjust these definitions and train your ICP model in real time, and we'll obviously see what we can do with that. But same idea with personas. It's kind of built out these really detailed kind of composite definitions for us that, again, is like the important homework that's kind of at the foundation of everything.
I love it. That's so quick. I mean, we did this in a couple minutes where this would normally be like a full day workshop of getting all this data on paper and organizing it all. I mean, this is pretty rapid fire.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It should be, this is something I've been on those teams. I've done that work too. And oftentimes, yeah, it was the old sit in a conference room and sweat it out and let's meet next week and come up with a persona. And like, we just don't, you don't have the time to do that these days. Like the markets move too quick. Customers make decisions too fast. Like you need to meet them where they are and just start getting stuff out there. And again, like we were talking about a second ago, you got to iterate your way to finding ground truth. You're not going to find it by sitting in a conference room and trying to work on this stuff forever, right?
Right.
Cool. Okay. So one other cool bit, we can add some reference customers if you want. The cool benefit with this helps train the model, kind of like even more reinforce like who's our ICP, and it can start to use that as like social proof dynamically in our messaging. So I don't know, do we want to add a reference customer or two?
Yeah, I love that. Let's go ahead and add Mistral.ai. So they're one of our bigger customers.
Awesome. There we go. And let's add one more.
Another one would be ChainGuard.dev. So they're a really fast growing cybersecurity company.
There we go. Yeah, cool. I'm familiar with them. Awesome. So here again, just to, I guess, highlight your point about speed, like how can we get a system that like really starts to understand some of these more like interesting particulars about our business and like be able to use them in cool ways. So you'll see it's going to come up with these references, and it's, again, starts to build out that story for us based on what it knows already. Like, how do they use our product? How do they benefit from it, right? Giving us a starting point. Of course, you can always come in and tweak this, so it will speak in the most accurate and precise way you want. But again, very, very quick kind of time to value and like getting these foundational pieces in place. So the cool part here is, again, this is like the foundation. You're not messing around with this day to day, but this gives us building blocks that we can then go use to like build a playbook. So playbooks are like, how do we actually develop a motion? So now you tell me, do we want to go after a specific type of company, a specific type of team? Do we want to build messaging for companies that have a certain type of problem, or, you know, some type of milestone? It could be a funding event or something else. You tell, pick a card, any card, we can build something here.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's go milestone based.
Cool.
Recently fundraising is usually a big indicator for us. They normally want to do rev ops once they've brought on some money. Okay,
cool. So recent fundraise, and you can see the model's even trying to come up with some ideas for us, but let's do a recent fundraise. And then what you said there, the second piece was the perfect, like that's kind of the insight. You said, what was it, like often directly after a fundraise, they're focused on RevOps initiatives, or you said it better than I just did. What?
Yeah, they're focused on RevOps initiatives because they're going to be investing heavily in their sales and marketing functions. So when you raise a lot of money, normally people expect a return. That's how you're going to get it.
Yep. And they are focused on their DTM initiatives. Great, cool. And then now we want to say like, all right, in this playbook, who are we building messaging for? Are all of our personas relevant? You could say probably in this case, probably yes, or you tell me, or we can pick a subset.
I think the top two look good. I'd say CRO, okay. They should have one in seat at that point in time. If it's a later stage, if they're raising like a Series C, they might have a VP of Sales Ops already in seat, and then they're looking more for execution help from us.
Cool.
So yeah, that looks right.
All right, we'll take those two. And then like, again, for this playbook, like the use cases, like what would we want to kind of generally orient our messaging around? I'd say you don't want to pick more, 1 to 3 is generally good, but of our kind of use cases, what would you choose?
Number 1 would be RevOps framework alignment. So aligning on process, aligning on design, what they want to do next. And then number 2 would be, I think it was the first one if you scroll up.
Architecture design?
Yep.
Cool. Let's take it. All right. So now we're going to create the playbook. So the playbooks, these are meant to be like, the library is the foundation, I'd say, lower velocity, like use there, because you're using these building blocks. And then these playbooks are meant to be where, like we talked about, like more of that iteration happens, right? Some playbooks might be long living, there might be evergreen plays that work and you keep running them, but you might also want to experiment. You might want to run an experiment like how do we position ourselves for e-commerce companies, that have they fundraise in a slightly different way, right? Or something like that, it gives you a way to brainstorm some of these as well and try them on for size and see if we even like this messaging. But basically what's happening here is kind of defining this bucket, right? So what is this kind of segment we're going after? Building out on that key insight for us. Like, why do we matter to this kind of audience we're targeting? And then value prop hypotheses are basically, now it's trying to give us, persona centric again. So for each persona, what are ways we can position to them in kind of like a pain centric way, right? Like, we're trying to get at the heart of the issue of like, okay, you just raised money, you're focused on RevOps, you're a CRO, like, what is top of mind for you, right? Like, we're trying to gain permission with relevance in our messaging is kind of the core idea here. So you can see, develop a lot of these, and to give you a really specific kind of framework and process to go, how are we going to talk to a VP of sales ops? How are we going to talk to a CRO, et cetera? And this isn't meant to be the copy yet. This is, again, still meant to be like the conceptual messaging.
Yeah, this is already hyper specific though. And it weaves in so many different factors. And this is what I meant earlier when people have an idea of what their ICP is, the level of depth you should be doing this at is just so much more than what most teams are doing or even have the time or capability to do. So seeing the level of depth here is pretty eye-opening. Cool.
Awesome. All right. Now you tell me, if we want to get even more crazy, I can show you how we can hook up. Now this model has all this context. We can hook it up to Clay or do something like that. Or you tell me.
Let's go crazy. We have a lot of customers who use Clay. So I think seeing how this interacts with Clay in that environment would be really, really eye-opening for our team.
Cool. All right, let's do it. So I'll walk you through. We'll get to see how everything happens here. So we're going to spin up a new API key. It's cool here. Let's just call this LeanScale. We also do something, you can have multiple products. You can scope keys to products and you can give them a playbook. So basically this is going to tell us in Clay, like, hey, when we hit this API, use this exact messaging, right? And some other stuff, writing styles, you can train the model in a lot of ways. So we'll create this key. We'll take this key and come over into Clay. And then we'll pop this in, and I have a little demo flow we can walk through here. So drop this key in, great. So this is our enrich person endpoint, and then this is our generate endpoint, and we'll see what they do in a second. So it's really cool here to kind of mimic another flow. So this table has a webhook in it. So what I'm going to do here is grab this webhook, just so we can kind of imitate, if you will, like these people could come from a list you've built, or like you might have de-anonymization on your website or something like that, right? Where somebody's coming into this table. And so I'm going to show you, we can kind of fake that scenario from Octave where like we have some people in here. So let's pick, Octave has tried to help me find some leads as part of what we do as well. Let's go to export to Clay. We'll drop in this webhook. We'll go export to Clay. And now those people dropped in. And so now what's happening, what's pretty cool, is now these people are dropping in. And you can see it's going first hitting this enrich person endpoint, right? And it's going, can I figure out who this person is? What's their persona? Are they a good fit for the product, right? And so you can see here, we had some from a previous table. We can see it's scoring them for me. Are they a good persona match? Yes, no. Are they a strong product fit? False, right? Don't generate for them. These newer folks you can see are coming through and we're going great. And you'll see there's a ton of data our model passes back. So it's scoring them great. They are a CRO match, high confidence, right? Are they a product fit? Moderate product fit, we think in this case. Great. So you can see we have a table here in an automated fashion. It's going, all right, they're a high confidence persona match, moderate product fit. We have a simple formula here that says, hey, ICP fit true equals if moderate or higher on both of these. And so you can see in this case, it gave us true, and then it went through and now generated an entire sequence for us. So now you can see here, it's given us an entire sequence, again, based on all of our messaging positioning, that playbook in here. You can see these will all be completely different, unique, and then you can push these wherever you want in your Clay table. So in this case, we didn't have an email address. We didn't pull that yet, but you can push it to Smart Lead or any sequencer, any pipeline of your choice, right? but gives you a really, really powerful automated flow that's, again, like based on all that context and all that messaging that you've built up in Octave, and it's that quick to get it wired up and working.
No, that is so cool. And before using Octave, I'm imagining how I would do it. I'd probably have a ton of prompts, probably like columns and columns of prompts, and then trying to like filter those prompts as each one comes through. So, I mean, this saves a ton of time and keeps it consistent. And I'm one person, so I would build the prompts for myself, but then making sure anybody else using Clay or anybody else trying to get hyper personalized messaging out, it would be really, really difficult to scale that and replicate it.
Totally. I'd say you hit on some key points there. I'd say like what we hear most from our customers are like a few things. One is like these flows are really powerful, but you're totally right. If you have to kind of articulate them with lots and lots of individual prompts and lots of cells and columns, it gets pretty brittle and hard to scale, and really gives you kind of a choke point in your operations of like how many people can work on that at once, right? It's kind of one person and they got to be really diligent about it. Otherwise that stuff is very fragile. The second big thing we hear is, there's a lot of opinions that go into like the messaging and positioning. There are sales opinions, there's enablement opinions, there's marketing opinions, there's PMM opinions, and like, those are really hard to get into a lot of these flows in kind of a scalable manner. So Octave for a lot of teams has become kind of that piece of connective tissue where all of those folks, hey, we can think in terms of playbooks and segments and value props and personas, and we can get that in a centralized place. And then, yeah, to your point, now we can access that via API, get high repeatability, high consistency, and really high quality outputs that we know where it's coming from in a really efficient manner.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm just, the use cases that are coming to mind, my mind's just kind of running wild on how you could leverage that data in other Gen AI tools as well, and other outputs, like not just sequencing, but I imagine there's so much more. How else do you envision people leveraging the ICP data, and where do you think people will be pumping that information to in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's why we started this business, right? We think there's a lot of applications for like that foundational context, right? A persona it's value to me as a seller to know how to write a sequence, to write an email. It's value to me as a marketer to know how to build an audience and how to build ad copy. It's valuable to me at the top of the funnel. It's valuable to me mid funnel when I'm trying to figure out messaging for all the stakeholders that might be involved in a sale. It's valuable for me to figure out what are the right questions to ask. If I'm talking to a fintech versus a e-commerce company, like what are the right questions to ask based on that context? What are things I want to figure out on a call? So there's a lot of things in addition to, of course, we believe like the future. I think we all know it's going to be a lot more 3D printing of everything, right? Your proposals, your one pagers, all of your assets, right? The idea that there's going to be stuff just sitting on a shelf that's, been printed out in bulk and we're waiting to hand that out at the booth. Like, I think we all are like believing there's a more powerful future where I get to speak to you as what's your role? What's the company you work for? Do I know anything about your past? And like, how can I arm you with information that proves that we know your business, we know you, we can help you. And so, not to say we'll boil the ocean, but I think we believe, again, like our mission is make Octave the place that understands what you do, who it's for, why you're unique, why you're different. And like, if we do a good job at that, we can underpin. There's a lot of jobs to be done that need that context to be done well.
100%. And I mean, just one, storing a home, or having a home to store your ICP and store that persona information, having those playbooks really, really fine-tuned to like some type of milestone or intent, plus the persona, plus the industry. I mean, there's so much that you can dig into there. And then being able to incorporate that into your other outputs is really, really impressive. So, Zach, what's the best way for people to start getting hands-on with Octave and and starting to get used to using it.
Yeah, well, please get in touch. Would love to similarly workshop this live with anybody. Myself, I love meeting with customers and learning about how everyone is taking their different offers to market. But you can always go to our site. What we just walked through today, it's free. Go on, give it a try, and we'd love your feedback. We're always trying to improve. So let us know what you love, what you didn't, and please connect with me directly, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zach, for being here today. Really appreciate you showing off all the tech. It's very impressive. Can't wait to see the creativity that it drives next, too. I think there's going to be so much more developed after this, and the use cases are just going to get really robust as we get used to using Octave. And appreciate your time. And as new things come out in the future, we'd love to have you back.
Man, thank you. This was so much fun. Really appreciate the time. And I think we both believe in there's a lot to be excited about in the future. So hopefully there's plenty more to talk about.
Absolutely. Thank you, Zach.
Cheers.